What's going on, guys? Spasmatic here, back inside Destiny 2, and in this video I'm going to be covering the Counterattack perk on swords and seeing how much of a damage increase the perk does on projectile versus non-projectile swords. The testing done in this video was completed by myself using an Adept Soulless Scar Trials of Osiris sword and my friend using a negative space adaptive frame sword that drops from the Prophecy dungeon, which is non-projectile. Both of these swords have the counterattack perk on them, and the damage numbers weren't influenced by any outside buff or perks such as high energy fire, rampage, etc. Any perk that increases the damage. These are all base damage numbers on the enemies that we were testing them on. We mainly tested these numbers on enemies within the Cosmodrome, in Patrol, Lost Sectors. The numbers were fairly sometimes different, but the percentages between the heavy attacks and the regular attacks were always the same. So to start off, the base damage of a regular attack done by projectile sword is 23,948. With the counterattack buff active, which lasts about 2 to 3 seconds long, on a projectile sword, the damage ideal is 35,922. Doing the math with these two numbers, it's clear to say that I'm doing a 50% damage increase with a regular attack on a projectile sword. Along with the base attacks on a projectile sword, this is also the same with the non-projectile sword. The base attacks on a non-projectile sword also deal a 50% damage increase when the counterattack buff is active, which is the negative space sword that my friend was using. So, moving on to heavy attacks, between the two types of swords, this is where it gets interesting. Doing a heavy attack with a projectile sword, I deal 7,185 damage. Now, doing a heavy attack with a projectile sword while the counterattack buff is active, I deal 28,738 damage. Doing the math, this is a 400% damage increase. On top of that, I deal this much more damage when I don't have full sword energy. Doing a heavy attack with a projectile sword, when I have full energy, I only deal 10,777 damage, which is a 50% damage increase. I thought this was interesting because the swords themselves state heavy attacks are stronger with full energy. I'm not sure if this is a bug or something that is wrong, because obviously, having Falling Guillotine in mind, this is true. Falling Guillotine does more damage when you have full sword energy, but that's not the case with this sword. While knowing that projectile swords deal a 400% damage increase while the counterattack buff is active, while not having full sword energy, non-projectile swords are different. Kinda. With my friend using negative space and adaptive frame sword, he was dealing 24,400 damage with a heavy attack. Dealing a heavy attack with the counterattack buff active, he was dealing 43,919 damage, which is an 80% damage increase, which is different than a projectile sword. So doing a heavy attack with a non-projectile sword while the sword energy was full, he was dealing 36,600 damage. This is a 50% damage increase, similar to the Soulless Scar projectile sword I was using. I'm not sure why this is the case, but whenever you have counterattack active, make sure you use it before you gain full sword energy, or else you'll deal less damage. I'm not sure why it's like this, but doing a heavy attack with your sword when you don't have full sword energy, you do more damage than not. So if you do a heavy attack where counterattack is active, while you have full sword energy, you only do a 50% damage increase. Compared to not having full sword energy, you'll do a 400% damage increase with a projectile sword and then an 80% damage increase with a non-projectile sword. I'm not sure why it's like this, but I wanted to do some testing, and this is the information that I found out between the two. I'm not sure why the percentages are so much different from each other with the heavy attacks when the counterattack buff is active, but that's just how it is. I'm not sure if it's a bug or something wrong with swords in general, but obviously, like I said, this is true with Falling Guillotine, like the sword states, because if you have full energy, you do more damage. But it wasn't the case with these swords that we tested in this video. So anyways, that's all I got for today about the counterattack perk after doing some testing on it within the game. If you guys have any information of your own about the sword damage or the counterattack perk, feel free to comment it down below. Hopefully you guys found the video helpful or informational in any way. If you guys did, don't forget to rate, comment, and subscribe. And I'll see you guys later back inside Destiny 2. Peace.